Hello, my friend. Welcome back. I am so glad you are here, right now, in this moment. Before we begin, I just want you to take a breath, a slow, gentle breath, in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's it. Beautiful. You are safe here. You are welcome here. And today, we are going to do something very special together. Today, we are going to slow down and we are going to listen and we are going to learn about one of the most fascinating women who ever lived on this earth. Today's lesson is called The Life of Cleopatra. And I want you to stay with me all the way to the end because this journey, this slow, beautiful journey, is going to do something wonderful for your English and maybe, just maybe, for your heart too. So let's begin, very slowly, together. First, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like the world was moving too fast? Like everyone around you was rushing, speaking fast, thinking fast, doing everything fast? And there you were, trying to keep up, trying to understand, trying to belong? If you have ever felt that way, I want you to know something. You are not alone. So many people all around the world feel exactly the same way. And that is why this channel exists. This channel, Motivate to Speak, was created for you. For the quiet moments, for the still moments, for the moments when you want to learn, but you need someone to walk beside you, slowly, gently, without rushing. That is what we do here. We slow everything down. We breathe, we listen, and we grow together. Now, before we go into the story of Cleopatra, I want to teach you something important, because this is a listening lesson, and listening is a skill. It is not just about hearing sounds. Listening, real listening, is about feeling the words. It is about letting the language enter you slowly, like warm tea on a cold morning. You know that feeling? When you hold a cup of warm tea and the warmth spreads from your hands into your chest, into your whole body? That is what good listening feels like. It does not rush. It does not force, it simply flows. So today, as you listen to me, I want you to let the English flow into you. Do not worry if you miss a word. Do not worry if you do not understand everything. Just listen. Just feel. Just stay. Because the more you stay, the more you will understand. And the more you understand, the more confident you will become. This is how language grows inside us, not by force, but by patience, not by pressure, but by presence. Now, let's talk about Cleopatra. Cleopatra. That name alone feels like something out of a dream, doesn't it? It feels ancient, powerful, mysterious. And she was all of those things. But she was also a real person. She was a woman who woke up every morning, just like you and me. She had fears, just like you and me. She had dreams, just like you and me. And she lived in a world that was often very difficult, very complicated, and very dangerous. And yet, she survived. She led. She learned. She loved. And even 2,000 years after her death, the world still speaks her name. There is a lesson in that, I think. There is a lesson in the fact that a woman born over 2,000 years ago can still make us feel something today. And that lesson is this: the way you live your life, the choices you make, the courage you show, those things do not disappear. They echo. They travel through time. They reach people you will never meet. Cleopatra's life reached us, and she never knew we would be here. Isn't that beautiful? Now, let me take you back,
very slowly to the beginning. Let me take you to ancient Egypt. Close your eyes for a moment if you can, and imagine. Imagine a land of golden sand and a great river, the Nile, flowing slowly, always flowing, bringing life to the dry earth. Imagine the smell of warm stone in the sun. Imagine the sound of people speaking, trading, praying, building. Imagine temples so tall they seem to touch the sky. Imagine a world where the pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, was considered almost like a god.
This is the world Cleopatra was born into. She was born around 69 BC. That means she was born approximately 69 years before the year we call Year Zero, the year of the beginning of the common calendar we use today. That is a very, very long time ago. Think about it this way. If you went back in time 2,000 years, you would find a world so different from today, it would feel like another planet. No phones, no electricity, no cars, no internet, no YouTube. Just people. People and their lives. People and their stories. People and their choices. That is all history ever is, really. The stories of people and the choices they made. Cleopatra was born into the royal family of Egypt. Her family name was Ptolemy. The Ptolemy family had ruled Egypt for many, many years. They were originally from a land called Macedonia, which is in Greece. So Cleopatra was actually of Greek descent. This is a fact that surprises many people. We often imagine Cleopatra as purely Egyptian because she was the queen of Egypt, but her family roots were Greek. And this tells us something important. It tells us that identity is complicated. It tells us that belonging is more than just where your family came from. Cleopatra chose Egypt. She loved Egypt.
She dedicated her life to Egypt, and in return, Egypt remembered her forever. Where you are born is not always where you belong. Sometimes belonging is a choice, and Cleopatra chose. Now, here is something truly remarkable about Cleopatra. Something that I think will make you feel a certain kind of admiration for her. Cleopatra could speak many languages. Many historians believe she spoke around 9 different languages. 9. She spoke Egyptian, Greek, Latin, Ethiopian, Hebrew, Arabic, and more. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. In a world without schools as we know them today, without language apps, without recordings, without anything we have now, this woman learned 9 languages. 9. And she did not learn them just to show off. She learned them because she understood something very important. She understood that language is connection. She understood that when you speak to someone in their own language, you do not just communicate information, you communicate respect. You say, I see you. You say, I value you. You say, I came to you, rather than making you come to me. That is a powerful thing, a very powerful thing. And right now, as you sit here, listening to English, trying to understand, trying to grow, you are doing exactly what Cleopatra did. You are learning a language to connect, to reach further, to become more. And that makes you remarkable. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment and do something together. This is a practice moment, a slow practice moment. I am going to say a sentence, and I want you to repeat it after me very slowly, as if you are tasting the words. Ready? Here is the sentence. Language is the bridge between hearts. Say it with me now, slowly. Language is the bridge between hearts. Once more, even slower. Language is the bridge between hearts. Beautiful. Did you feel that? Did you feel how true that sentence is? A bridge connects 2 things that are separate. It allows crossing. It allows meeting. And language is exactly that. It is the thing that allows 2 people from completely different worlds to meet, to understand, to connect. You are building that bridge right now. Every word you learn, every sentence you practice,
Every lesson you sit through is another plank in that bridge. Keep building, my friend. Keep building. Now let me continue with Cleopatra's story. When Cleopatra was very young, her father was the king of Egypt. His name was Ptolemy XII. He was not a particularly strong king. He had difficulties ruling, and there were many people who did not respect him. The world was not simple for Cleopatra's father. Egypt was facing pressure from a very powerful force in the world at that time. That force was Rome. Rome, the Roman Empire. Even today, when we say the word Rome, we feel something. We feel power. We feel history. We feel that sense of something enormous, something that shaped the world. And in Cleopatra's time, Rome was at the height of its power. Rome had armies. Rome had wealth. Rome had ambition. And Rome was always looking, always watching, always considering which lands it could absorb, which kingdoms it could control. Egypt was one of those kingdoms, and Cleopatra grew up knowing this. She grew up in the shadow of that enormous power, and she knew that one day it would be her challenge to face. When Cleopatra's father died, she was around 18 years old. 18. Think about that for a moment. Think about yourself at 18, or think about someone you know at 18. At 18, most of us are still figuring out who we are. We are still learning how to navigate the world. We are uncertain, nervous, unsure of ourselves. But Cleopatra, at 18, became the ruler of one of the most important kingdoms in the ancient world. And she did not have the luxury of being uncertain for long. She had to learn quickly. She had to lead immediately. She had to be strong, not because she wanted to, but because the situation demanded it. And she rose. She rose to meet the challenge. She did not hide. She did not give up. She did not say, I am too young. I am too inexperienced. I am not ready. She said, this is my moment. And she stepped into it. Now, I want to stop here and share something with you, something personal, something I think many of you will understand. I have spoken to so many people over the years, people who are learning English, people who are trying to grow, people who are working so hard. And one of the most common things I hear is this: I am not ready yet. I need to study more before I speak. I need to be better before I try. I am not ready. And I understand that feeling. I really do. It comes from a place of care. It comes from a place of wanting to do things right. But here is what I have learned, and what Cleopatra's story teaches us. Readiness is not something that comes before the action. Readiness is something that comes during the action. You do not become ready and then begin. You begin and then you become ready. Cleopatra was not ready to be a queen at 18, but she began anyway. And in the beginning, she grew into readiness. And you, my friend, you are doing the same thing. You began this lesson. You pressed play. You stayed. That is the beginning. And in that beginning, your readiness is growing. Trust the process. Trust yourself. Now, let me tell you a little more about Cleopatra's early years as queen. When she took power, she had a co-ruler. A co-ruler means someone who rules together with you. Her co-ruler was her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. He was very young when they began ruling together, and very quickly there was conflict. There were people around the young brother, advisors, powerful men, who wanted to push Cleopatra aside. They wanted the power for themselves. They did not believe a woman should be the primary ruler. And after a period of struggle, Cleopatra was actually forced to leave Egypt, forced to leave her own kingdom, forced into exile. Exile is a word that means being made to leave your home, your country, your place. Imagine that. Imagine being pushed out of your own home, not your house, your entire country. Imagine the feeling of that, the helplessness, the anger, the grief. And yet, even in exile, Cleopatra did not stop. She did not give up. She did not accept that this was the end of her story. She gathered support. She made plans. She waited for the right moment. And that moment came in the form of a Roman general named Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar had come to Egypt. He was one of the most powerful men in the Roman world. He was a military genius, a brilliant strategist, a man of enormous influence. And Cleopatra knew that an alliance with Caesar could change everything. So she did something that even now, thousands of years later, people talk about. She had herself smuggled, secretly brought, wrapped in a carpet or a cloth sack, into the palace where Caesar was staying. Smuggled. That is the word.
Smuggled means secretly moved, without permission, hidden from others. She was smuggled into Caesar's presence, rolled in fabric, brought in like a secret. And when she emerged, she presented herself to him not as a fugitive, not as a desperate woman, but as a queen, with dignity, with grace, with confidence. Can you imagine the kind of inner strength that requires? To be in one of the most vulnerable positions you can be in and still choose to present yourself with power. That is remarkable. That is truly remarkable. And Caesar was impressed. He was more than impressed. He was captivated. And their meeting changed the course of history. Let's pause again here, my friend, because I want to do another slow practice moment with you. And this time, I want us to practice something a little longer. I am going to say a phrase, and I want you to breathe first. Take a breath in, slowly. And now breathe out. Good. Now repeat after me, slowly, gently, one word at a time. She rose to meet every challenge with grace. Say it again with me. She rose to meet every challenge with grace. One more time, and this time I want you to feel it. Feel the words. She rose to meet every challenge with grace. Now, I want you to say it about yourself. Change the word she to I. I rise to meet every challenge with grace. Say that again. I rise to meet every challenge with grace. Beautiful, because that is true of you. Every time you press play, every time you sit down to practice, every time you choose learning over giving up, you are rising. You are meeting your challenge with grace. Now let me continue the story now. With Caesar's help, Cleopatra was restored to power in Egypt. She ruled again, and not just ruled, she thrived. She formed a deep partnership with Caesar. They were allies in politics, and they became close personally. Together, they even traveled along the Nile, the great river of Egypt, on a magnificent royal barge. Imagine that image for a moment. A royal barge on the Nile, the golden sun, the warm breeze, the slow movement of the water, the sound of the river, steady, ancient, eternal, and two of the most powerful people in the world sailing together. It must have felt like a dream. And in many ways, it was, because all dreams eventually meet reality. And reality, for Cleopatra, was always complicated. Caesar was eventually killed. He was assassinated in Rome by a group of senators who feared his power. And with his death, Cleopatra lost a great protector, a great ally, and a great part of her personal world. She returned to Egypt, and she rebuilt again. This is something I want you to notice about Cleopatra. She kept rebuilding. Every time something was taken from her, she found a way to rebuild. Every time a door was closed, she looked for another door. Every time she lost something, she gathered herself, and she began again. This quality, this resilience, this refusal to stay down, this is perhaps the most important thing we can learn from her. Not just the history, not just the facts, but the spirit of rising again. Now, after Caesar's death, the Roman world was divided among powerful men. One of those men was Mark Antony. Mark Antony was a Roman general, charming, powerful, dramatic. he summoned Cleopatra to meet him. He sent a message to Egypt demanding her presence, and Cleopatra came. But she did not come as someone who had been summoned. She came as a queen. She arrived on a magnificent ship. The sails were golden or purple. The historians debate the exact color. But whatever color they were extraordinary. The oars of the ship were made of silver. The air around the ship was filled with the scent of perfume. Music played. Women dressed as mythological goddesses stood around her. And Cleopatra sat on the deck under a canopy of gold cloth like a goddess herself. The entire city came to the river to watch, and Mark Antony sat alone in his seat of power, waiting for her to come to him. But instead, the whole world went to her. The whole city left him and went to see her. And he sat there alone. And then he sent a message asking her to come to dinner. And she invited him to come to her instead. She turned the power around completely, without a single word of confrontation, without a single argument. She simply arrived. And in arriving, she changed everything. There is a lesson buried in that moment, a quiet but powerful lesson. Sometimes the way you enter a room says more than anything you could ever say with words. Sometimes the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, the way you show up is its own language. And Cleopatra understood this deeply. She was a student of human nature. She understood people. She understood what they responded to, what they feared, what they admired, what they desired. And she used that understanding wisely, not to manipulate, but to communicate. Because to communicate powerfully, you need to understand your audience. And this is true in language learning too. When you speak English, you are not just making sounds, you are communicating, you are expressing yourself. And the more you understand, the more powerfully you can express. Let's do another practice moment together now. This one is a little different. I want to give you a word, just one word, and I want to talk about it very slowly, and then I want you to say it. The word is resilience. Resilience. Let's say it together, slowly. Re-sil-yence. Resilience. Now, what does it mean? Resilience means the ability to recover from difficulties, the ability to bounce back, the ability to fall and rise again, the ability to be broken and to heal. It is the quality of rubber. When you press rubber down, what does it do? It bounces back. It returns to its shape. That is resilience. And Cleopatra had it. And so do you. Every time you struggle with a word and you try again, that is resilience. Every time you feel embarrassed about your accent and you speak anyway, that is resilience. Every time you feel like giving up and you press play instead, that is resilience. Now say the word one more time with me. Resilience. Say it. Resilience. Beautiful. You just said a word that describes something you already have inside you. Now let me take you deeper into the story. Mark Antony and Cleopatra became one of the most famous couples in all of history. They ruled together, they fought together, they loved together. And eventually, they fell together. Because the Roman world was changing. A young and very clever man named Octavian was rising to power in Rome. Octavian would later be known as Augustus Caesar, the first true emperor of Rome. But at this time, he was young, and he and Mark Antony were rivals. Rivals for power, rivals for the future of Rome. And Cleopatra was deeply connected to Antony, which meant she was Octavian's enemy. The conflict between Octavian and Antony came to a head at a famous sea battle, the Battle of Actium. It took place in 31 BC. Actium was a place on the coast of Greece, and in that battle, Octavian's forces defeated Antony and Cleopatra decisively. The word decisively means in a complete and clear way. There was no question about the outcome. Octavian won, and everything began to fall apart for Cleopatra. After the defeat at Actium, Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt, but Octavian's forces were following, closing in, and Antony, in a moment of confusion and despair, believed that Cleopatra had died. It was a misunderstanding, a tragic misunderstanding. And believing her dead, he took his own life. And then Cleopatra learned what had happened. And the grief of that moment is something we can only imagine. She had survived so much. She had fought so hard. She had rebuilt so many times. But now she faced something she had not faced before. She faced the complete collapse of everything she had built. Octavian arrived in Egypt. He wanted to take Cleopatra to Rome as a prisoner, to display her in his victory parade, to show the Roman people, "This is the queen I conquered." And Cleopatra understood this. She understood exactly what Octavian wanted. And she made a choice, a final, quiet, dignified choice. She chose not to be displayed. She chose not to be a symbol of someone else's victory. She died on her own terms. In 30 BC, Cleopatra died. She was 39 years old. Now, historians still debate the exact manner of her death. The most famous story is the snake, the asp. The story says that she allowed a venomous snake to bite her, that the snake was brought to her in a basket of figs. This image, the snake in the basket, has become one of the most iconic images in all of history. But whether or not this is exactly what happened, we cannot know for certain. What we do know is that she chose. She was not taken. She was not defeated in her deepest self. She made a choice. And in that choice, even in death, she retained her power, her dignity, her identity as a queen. Now, I want to pause here for a moment, because this part of the story is heavy, and I want to sit with it for a moment. I do not want to rush past it. When we rush past the heavy parts of stories, we lose something. We lose the feeling that the story is trying to give us. So let's just breathe for a moment. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Good. Now, let me say something to you. Every life has moments of great loss. Every life has moments where things fall apart. Every life has a battle of Actium, a moment where something you worked for, something you loved, something you built, is taken, or changes, or ends. And in those moments, we have a choice. We cannot always choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we meet what happens. Cleopatra could not stop Octavian. She could not reverse the defeat. She could not bring back what was lost. But she could choose how she met the end of her chapter, and she chose with dignity. And that is something no one could ever take from her. Let me share a small story with you now, a story from everyday life.
Because history is important, but it is also important to bring these lessons home, into our ordinary lives, into our kitchens and our bedrooms and our daily routines. Imagine a woman named Maria. Maria is from a small town. She moved to a big city when she was 25 years old. She moved to build a better life. She left her family, her friends, her language, everything familiar. She arrived in the big city, not knowing anyone, not speaking the language fluently, working in a small restaurant, washing dishes, saving money. Every day was hard. Every day was lonely. But every night, after her long shift, she would sit at the small table in her small room, and she would open her notebook, and she would practice English. She would write sentences. She would read aloud. She would listen to podcasts and YouTube videos in English every single night. Not because it was easy, but because she could see the bridge she was building. She could feel it taking shape, one word at a time. After 3 years, she was speaking English with confidence. After 5 years, she was managing the restaurant. After 10 years, she owned a small business. She never forgot those first nights, the loneliness.
The notebook, the quiet determination. And sometimes, When someone who worked for her seemed discouraged, she would sit down with them, and she would say, "I know it is hard, I know, but keep the notebook, keep writing, keep going." That is a real story. That is the story of resilience in everyday life. That is Cleopatra's spirit in a small room in a big city in our modern world. And now, I want to share another small story with you, a story about a boy named Daniel. Daniel was 12 years old when his family moved to a new country. He did not speak the language. He sat in class every day, surrounded by children who laughed and talked and played in a language he did not understand. And he felt invisible. Invisible. That is a word that means as if no one can see you. He felt like he was there, but not really there, like a ghost. And every day he went home and sat at the kitchen table and he cried. He cried quietly because he did not want his parents to worry. They had worked so hard to give him this new life. He did not want them to see how much he was struggling. But one day, a teacher noticed him. A quiet, kind teacher. She sat down next to him during break time, and she said, just very simply, very gently, "Do you want me to help you with your English?" And he nodded, because there were no words yet, just a nod. And that teacher, every break time, every free moment she had, sat with him. She did not rush. She did not make him feel small. She simply sat with him. And slowly, slowly, the language began to come. A word here, a sentence there, a moment of understanding, a small laugh at a small joke. And then one day, 6 months later, Daniel raised his hand in class and he answered a question in English. And the whole class was silent for a moment. And then they clapped, not because he said something brilliant, but because they knew what it had taken. And Daniel sat there, tears in his eyes and a smile on his face. And he thought of all the quiet, hard, lonely days. And he realized they were not wasted days. They were building days. My friend, I want to talk to you now, not about Cleopatra, not about Maria, not about Daniel. I want to talk to you. Because you are here. You pressed play. You listened all the way to this point. And I know that is not always easy. Some days learning English feels impossible. Some days the words don't come. Some days you feel like you will never be fluent. Some days you compare yourself to others and you feel behind. And I want to say something very clearly to you. Stop comparing. Please, stop comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 27. You do not know how many quiet, hard, lonely nights they sat at their own kitchen table. You do not see what is behind the fluency you admire. You only see the result. You do not see the road, but the road is where the real growth happens, and you are on that road right now. Every day you practice, even for a few minutes, you are on that road. Every lesson you sit through, even imperfectly, even with distractions, even when you're tired, you are on that road, and the road will bring you somewhere. I promise you, if you stay on it, it will bring you somewhere beautiful. Let's do another slow practice moment together now. This one is for encouragement. This time, I want you to say these words as if you mean them, because you should mean them. Ready? Take a breath first. In and out. Now say this after me. Every day, I am growing. Say it. Every day, I am growing. One more time. Every day, I am growing. Now add this. I am patient with myself. Say it. I am patient with myself. And one more. I belong in this language. Say that one. I belong in this language. One more time. I belong in this language. Because you do. English is not owned by anyone. It belongs to everyone who chooses to learn it. And you have chosen. And that choice belongs to you. Now let me bring the story of Cleopatra to a close, slowly, gently. After Cleopatra's death, Egypt became a province of Rome. Octavian became the emperor of Rome. The Ptolemy dynasty, the royal family that had ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years, came to an end. And the ancient, independent Egypt, the Egypt of pharaohs, the Egypt of the Nile and the pyramids and the golden temples, began a new chapter, a different chapter, a Roman chapter. And Cleopatra was the last pharaoh of ancient Egypt. The last. Think about that. A tradition that lasted 3,000 years. 3,000 years of pharaohs. And she was the final one. The final chapter of an ancient story. In some ways, that sounds sad. An ending. A close. But I want to offer you a different way of thinking about endings. Endings are not failures. Endings are not losses. Endings are transitions. They are the moments when one story finishes and another begins. Egypt went on. The people went on. The river went on. The culture went on, absorbed and changed, but never truly erased. And Cleopatra's story went on, in books, in paintings, in films, in conversations like this one. 2,000 years later, we are still telling her story. We are still learning from her. We are still feeling something when we say her name, Cleopatra. Let me ask you something now. What do you want to be remembered for? Not in a grand historical way, not in the way of queens and empires, but in the quiet way, in the everyday way. How do you want the people around you, the people who love you, to remember you? What qualities do you want them to see? What words do you want them to use? Take a moment with that question. You don't need to answer out loud. Just hold it. Let it sit with you. Because the answer to that question is a map. It is a map of the person you are trying to become. And every day that you show up, every day that you practice, every day that you choose growth over comfort, you are walking that map. You are moving toward that person. Now let's do one more practice moment together before we close. This one is my favorite. It is a simple sentence, but it is full of truth. Take a breath with me first. In and out. Now say this after me. I am learning, and that is enough. Say it. I am learning, and that is enough. One more time, slowly. I am learning, and that is enough. I want you to carry that sentence with you. For today, for tomorrow, for the next time you feel frustrated or slow or behind. I am learning, and that is enough. Because it is. It truly is. Before I close, I want to remind you of a few things we learned today, not just about Cleopatra, but about life. We learned that resilience, the ability to rise again, is one of the most powerful qualities a person can have. We learned that language is more than words. It is connection. It is respect. It is a bridge between hearts. We learned that readiness comes during the action, not before it. We learned that endings are not failures. They are transitions. And we learned that your story matters. That the quiet, hard, lonely nights of study, the moments of frustration and confusion, the times you almost gave up but didn't, all of those moments are building something. Something real, something yours.
And now, a gentle request. If this lesson touched something in you, if it helped you feel even a little more calm, a little more capable, a little more connected to this beautiful language, I would love for you to leave a comment below. Just a small one. Just a few words. Tell me what you felt. Tell me what you learned. Tell me what stayed with you. Because when you write in English, even just a few words, you are practicing, you are building, you are being brave. And I read every comment, every single one. And if this lesson gave you something today, please consider sharing it with someone who needs it, someone who is struggling, someone who feels slow, someone who needs a calm voice to tell them, keep going. Because maybe they need to hear it as much as you did. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel, not because of numbers, but because every time you subscribe, you are saying yes to this kind of learning. Slow learning, safe learning, human learning, and that yes matters. And now, my friend, we have come to the end of our time together today. But before I go, I want to say one last thing to you. I want you to know that I am proud of you. I know that sounds strange coming from someone you have never met, but I mean it.
The fact that you are here, learning, trying, sitting with discomfort and choosing growth anyway, that is something to be proud of. You are doing something that most people never do. Most people stay in comfort. Most people avoid the thing that is hard. But you chose to press play. You chose to listen. You chose to grow. And Cleopatra, that brilliant, resilient, multilingual, magnificent woman, would have understood exactly what you were doing. She was a language learner too. She was a person who chose connection over comfort, who chose growth over safety, who chose to show up even when it was hard. You are in good company, my friend, very good company. Take a final breath with me now. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Slowly. Feel how far you have come in this lesson. Feel the words that are sitting inside you now. Let them settle. Let them become part of you, because they will. Every word you hear, every sentence you feel, it leaves a trace. It plants a seed, and seeds, with patience, with water, with light, become something beautiful. You are becoming something beautiful. Trust that. Trust the process. Trust yourself. And come back. Come back to this channel. Come back to this slow, safe, warm space, because there are many more stories to tell, many more words to learn, many more quiet, beautiful lessons waiting for you. Until then, be gentle with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Speak a little English today, even if it is just one sentence, even if it is just to yourself, even if no one else hears it, because the most important audience you have is you, and you deserve to hear yourself grow. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your trust. It means more than you know. I will see you in the next slow listening lesson, my friend.